Thought I'd elaborate on a post that I made on Instagram about, in my 20s, comedy helped me make sense of the world. In my 30s, poetry helped me make sense of my heart and the world. But, and the post was about how people in Australia, like, they kind of pride themselves on not taking themselves too seriously. And it's good. You shouldn't take yourself too seriously. It's kind of zen and beautiful to take life as lightly as possible, because there's so much heavy bullshit in the world. It's just and especially in these times where there's so much humorlessness and authorized laughter. It's like suffocating. It's suffocating how much serious and big talk there is. What happened to small talk? Even though I'm mostly an introvert, I'd kind of miss small talk. I like talking about the weather. But yeah, as a kid in my 20s, I was very serious. I daydreamed a lot. I'd even get picked on here and there for daydreaming. And who cares? I wasn't that fussed about it, but I still remember it. But I'm a daydreamer, and I like my little serious daydream thoughts. They make me happy. But I knew that I couldn't really share these serious daydreamy thoughts with people. You find out really quickly that no one wants to know. It's one rung above telling someone your boring dream. No one wants to know. And you just sort of talk in superficial, fun-loving bullshit. Take just whatever. Yeah, it's just all. Everything's taken so lightly. But to the point where it's almost, it's emptiness. I love lightness. I love funny. It's good. It's good. There's no argument for it. I don't need to argue why that's the case. But I almost felt like this "don't take yourself too seriously" made in Australia there's that tall poppy syndrome thing as well. Like, and if you have any success, it better be an accident or else. So you can't really have serious thoughts. You can, but it's out of whack. It's often out of whack. And there are parts of Australia where I feel like people don't have a sense of humour. There's zero. But when I grew up, you couldn't take yourself too seriously, and it's still the case, like in a lot of places as well. We don't need to hear your serious, heavy thoughts. Who cares? But for me, they were interesting, and I nurtured these heavy, interesting, weird thoughts for a long time. And I remember reading novels in my 20s, and I thought, these guys are saying stuff that I think, but they don't feel it to be true. They know it to be true just because they've lived the experience. They've lived with it for so long that they say it with an authority that I didn't have in my 20s and my 30s. But I had these thoughts, and I wasn't going to be taken seriously for these same thoughts because I hadn't lived life. And so yeah, I had to disguise my seriousness in my 20s with this developing a sense of humor. Just trying to find, just almost like studying it and trying to work out what's funny, what isn't. And for me, I would laugh at the wrong things, or I'd find the serious stuff funny, and I still do. I find what's supposed to be funny dead boring. I go to the Melbourne Comedy Festival's a piece of shit. I'll look at the best of comedians there. No one's funny. No, they're all. Some of them are world class supposedly, and they're not funny. And I always found that with Mum. Like, I always found Mum was extremely funny, but by accident. And I swear that a lot of comedy mechanics come from a sense of self-aware autism, where you take things so literally that it actually flips into funniness. And I don't think Mum was autistic, but there was something going on where she took stuff so literally it flipped into ridiculous funny. But so anyway, I developed this sense of humor for whatever it was. I worked out how to fit my sense of humor into the world's sense of humor, and I ended up writing jokes for The Chaser, who they had a program on ABC at the time. I wrote jokes for their newspaper. I only had maybe 5 or 6 in there. And one of these jokes in cartoon form, they actually took and they turned it into a TV skit for the ABC. I developed a sense of humor, and I worked out how to be taken seriously as a funny person in my 20s, and that was good. But it was fun. It's still fun to write jokes and make funny shit. I like it, but that couldn't scratch an itch, and I found poetry could scratch that itch. And there's stuff like Bukowski, who I've talked about before, who, like some comedians like Stephen Wright from the US, and even Bukowski's editor, who died recently, said he could have been one of the world's greatest comedians. And it's true, like you read Bukowski's stuff and there's always some sly, black, dark humor in it. And I feel the same way with The Sopranos as well. The second time watching The Sopranos last year after a 20-year break, it's so dark and black. I found myself laughing all the time. The first time I watched it, it was almost just for the drama. The second time was for how actually funny it was. But maybe it's because I rewatched it in these times where there's just no humor. So I'm trying to find funny in anything. Desperate to laugh at something. Just to let it out. I think I wrote a joke, not a joke. I had this thought, a serious thought. That's what I love. I can't deliberately write a joke. I can't deliberately write a poem. I just have to have an interesting thought. It starts with an interesting thought. And if that interesting thought becomes a joke or it becomes a poem, then that's where it leads. It has to be interesting to me. That's it. Yeah, and so a lot of my interesting thoughts were serious, just happened to be serious as a kid. But anyway, when I wrote this thing for my new book, You're Going to Be Okay Because You're Fucked No Matter What, and it's called Creationist Myth, and it's about a young son called Happiness. It's a ball of laughter, and it laughs the universe into existence. It creates cats, moons, trees, skies, clouds with just a giant ball of laughter, just pissing itself into the vast void of nothingness until it creates everything. This laughter, and then I've got at the end of that, I've got how philosophers, comedians, and scientists have tried to work backwards from the laughter to the joke to try and work out what the joke was, but they actually can't work it out. And anyway, that's a piece that I've written for my new book that'll be out. Yeah. You're going to be okay because you're fucked no matter what. But yeah, this whole thing of trying to camouflage, trying to fit in with being funny. I tried to in my 20s, and I worked it out. I worked out how to be a professionally funny with getting stuff through the Chaser and on the ABC. But then that didn't scratch an itch. Poetry could. That's where I was going with this. Poetry could say something to me that comedy couldn't. Comedy's great and it's fun, but it can only take you so far before there's something cosmic and vast and beautiful. And I love that laughter can create worlds and universes, but at some point there needs to be something more than that. I find a lot of comedians in their 20s and 30s, they do a lot of meta stuff. Like they'll make if they want to try and sound profound, they'll get something and then make the snake eat itself. They'll go around in a circle, and it's like one thing leads to the next until it's all back to the start again. It's a meta hall of mirrors, echo reflection, and that's almost all philosophy I see from comedians in their 20s and 30s. They'll do that meta thing. I did it too, and it's fun. I even see Alan Watts do it into his 50s, and it is good. It's a beautiful circular tail chasing, pointless, ridiculous absurdity of life, and it illustrates that point really beautifully. But at some point, you have to step beyond that. There's something more. There's something else to say, and that can come with life experience. Like, I like how both Louis C.K. and Roseanne have talked about how comedians need to be a really good comedian. You need to be doing it for about 30 years, and then you'll be good. And that makes sense, because a lot of comedians are often really young, and comedy works in fashion. There's always what's in fashion. There's certain types of laughter that's in fashion. You can go through all the decades and see it, how it went from surrealism to clean to absurdity to this to that. Now it's in this, it's kind of trying to push back against how far the left and the right have gone, and now it's in this other area of strangeness. But, oh fuck, where was I going with that? Where was I going with that? Didn't go eat my baby. I sound really Australian sometimes. And I am. That's because I am. Yeah. But yeah, poetry, brought something to me that made sense, and it made me feel good. And it was a place to put those interesting thoughts where I wasn't really allowed to say them for so long. I couldn't say them. Poetry was a place to put my serious, weird thoughts, my serious, interesting thoughts. So it's been nice to do that through my 30s, and then come back to comedy in my late 40s and combine the two. I love how comedy is often a Trojan horse, and poetry is kind of from the far side of the moon. No one wants to hear it. It's too personal and self-indulgent, which most poetry is. So I love how you can combine the two, the comedy and the poetry, and they work so well together. A lot of my favorite comedians have been around long enough to evolve some kind of sense of poetry into their stuff. But anyway, I don't think I really went where I wanted to go with this today, but yeah. If you'd like to leave a review on Spotify or Apple, or comment on YouTube, or wherever you're listening to this. Gee, I sound drunk today. I always feel drunk. I feel so relaxed. All right, see ya.